Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into sales leadership today.
Sounds good.
And you know how everyone's always talking about sales technology? Like there's more than ever before.
Yeah.
But sales results themselves, they haven't really been going up at the same rate.
Yeah, it's a really strange thing.
Right,
Right.
right. So we're going to take a look at all of that
Okay.
with an article called The Sales Manager Dilemma: Too Much Technology, Too Little Leadership.
Okay.
It's by Dr. Richard Conde, and it brings up some really interesting points.
Yeah. Dr. Conde's perspective is really important here. He says that, all this focus on sales technology that we have, it might actually be what's stopping good leadership from happening.
Interesting.
Like instead of building relationships with their team, sales managers are spending all their time looking at data and forgetting the human side of things.
So they're treating salespeople like numbers in a spreadsheet instead of people.
Yeah, exactly like that.
Yeah.
And this over-reliance on technology could actually be leading to something called the Peter Principle.
The Peter Principle. I think I've heard of that. Doesn't that mean that people get promoted until they're not good at their jobs anymore?
Exactly. So in sales, it means that the best salespeople often end up as managers, even if they don't have the skills to lead.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just because someone's great at selling doesn't mean they'll be a good manager. I've definitely seen that happen.
Yeah, being a good leader is completely different. You have to know how to motivate people and help them grow and just create a good place to work.
And I guess you can't really just download those skills like an app, right?
Nope. These are human skills.
So how does all this connect back to all the sales technology we have now?
Well, if a manager doesn't have those leadership skills in the first place, they might just rely on the tech as a way to avoid doing the hard stuff.
Ah, okay.
So instead of having tough conversations or coaching their team, they just look at the data and use it to control everyone.
I get it. So it's more about managing the numbers than actually leading people.
Exactly. And that usually ends up backfiring because when you make people feel like they're constantly being watched, they just stop caring.
Right.
And that obviously leads to worse sales performance overall.
So what we have here is like this big mess of tons of sales technology people getting promoted into leadership when they shouldn't be, and everyone relying on data instead of connecting like humans.
Yeah,
That's not great.
not at all.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster.
right.
And a lot of sales organizations are falling into that trap. They're so focused on getting the newest tech tools.
Yeah.
They forget about the people that they have.
Yeah, it's true. We forget that sales is all about people.
Right.
You have to connect with people and understand what they need
Yeah.
and then like come up with solutions.
Yeah, you have to create an environment where salespeople feel like they're supported, and motivated to do their best work. But when
Mm.
you've got managers who are just watching them all the time and analyzing everything they do
Right.
and using technology to micromanage them, it just makes everyone feel scared and like they can't trust anyone.
Totally. It's like you can't force people to be creative if they think someone's always watching them and judging them.
Exactly. And that's where this Peter Principle thing becomes a real problem.
Right.
When you make someone a leader without actually teaching them how to lead,
Yeah.
you're setting them up to fail.
And then everyone on their team fails too, right?
Pretty much.
So is there anything we can do about this?
Well, I think the first thing is to realize that technology is just a tool. It's not the solution.
Okay.
It can be really helpful when you use it the right way
Uh-huh.
to help leaders be better, but it shouldn't replace good leadership.
So it's not about getting rid of all the technology. It's about using it to make managers better leaders.
Yeah, and not just better at looking at numbers.
Okay, that makes sense.
Imagine a sales manager who uses all that data
Yeah.
to figure out what their team needs help with. And then they can actually use that information to give people personalized help instead of just sending out a mass email.
Yeah, that's a much better way to use it.
Exactly. It shows how tech can actually make the human side of leadership better.
Instead of trying to replace it.
Exactly. And it all starts with actually training people to be good leaders.
Okay.
Companies need to have programs that teach people how to communicate well and coach their team and just be good at the human stuff.
You know, it's funny. You always hear people talk about how important those soft skills are for leaders,
Right.
but it seems like no one ever teaches them.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of companies just focus on product knowledge and sales techniques and how to use the latest technology.
Right.
But being a good sales leader is so much more than that.
Exactly.
You have to understand how people think and how to motivate them
Uh-huh.
and create an environment where everyone feels valued.
So we need to completely change how we think about training leaders.
Yeah.
It can't just be about data and hitting sales targets.
Totally. We need to start focusing on building real human connections.
Exactly. And it's not just about training programs.
Okay.
It's about creating a culture where everyone is always learning and growing.
Right.
And leaders should always be looking for ways to improve their skills, like by going to conferences or reading books or talking to other leaders.
So it's about making learning part of the job.
Yeah, exactly. And that brings us to another important point. Accountability.
Okay.
Companies need to hold their managers accountable, not just for the sales numbers, but for how they're leading their teams too.
So it's not just about making the quota, it's about how you're leading your team.
Yeah, and how you're helping them grow and making sure everyone's happy at work.
Right.
And that starts from the top.
So the leaders at the very top of the company.
Yes. They have to make it clear that developing good leaders is important for everyone in the company.
They can't just say it, they have to actually do it.
Exactly. They have to put in the time and the money to create a culture where being a good leader is valued. And then when you have that kind of culture, everyone benefits.
Exactly. Sales managers do a better job. Salespeople are happier and more productive.
Right.
And even the customers are happier.
It's a win for everyone.
Exactly.
You know, it's funny. We started talking about all this technology and how it hasn't really made sales go up.
Yeah.
But it seems like the real problem is that we're not using it to make leaders better.
I think you're exactly right. Technology is only as good as the people using it.
Makes sense.
If we want to see real growth in sales, we need leaders who can connect with people and inspire them.
That's a good point. And that's not just true for sales.
Right.
It's true for any kind of leader in any industry.
Yeah. Being a good leader is all about building trust and working together and making people feel valued.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to ask you,
Sure.
what are some specific things that sales leaders can do right now
Okay.
to make their teams more human-centered and more successful?
That's a great question. Well, there are a lot of things, but I think one of the most important is to just focus on building real relationships with your team. Like, put down the spreadsheets and the reports and actually talk to people.
Right.
Like, just grab coffee with someone on your team and see how they're doing.
Yeah.
Ask them about their goals. Those little things can make a big difference in building trust.
So it's about showing your team that you actually care about them as people.
Exactly. And another thing is to really focus on coaching and development.
Right.
Instead of just worrying about hitting the sales targets, help your team learn and grow.
So it's about helping people get better instead of just managing their performance.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be anything formal.
Right.
You can just give them regular feedback, share what you've learned, or connect them with other people in the company who are doing well.
So create a culture where everyone's always learning and growing.
Exactly. And the last thing is to think about how you can use technology to actually help your team.
Instead of just using it to watch them.
Exactly. Right.
Like you can use the data to give people more personalized coaching or to figure out what they need to work on.
Right.
Or you can even just use it to send someone a quick note to encourage them if they're having a tough week.
That's a good idea.
Technology could be a great way to make people feel more connected and supported.
It just depends on how you use it.
Exactly.
So it sounds like we're really talking about changing how we think about leadership.
Yeah.
Like moving away from just controlling people and looking at data.
Right.
And focusing more on empowering people and building relationships.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Right.
People want to work for leaders who care about them,
Right.
who believe in them, and who inspire them to do their best.
And that's not something technology can do.
Nope.
So to everyone listening, I want you to think about your own leadership style.
Yeah.
Are you leading people or are you just managing data?
That's an important question.
Are you building a team where everyone feels connected and supported?
Or are you just trying to control everything? These are important questions for all leaders.
In any industry.
Because at the end of the day, the best leaders are the ones who can connect with people.
And build trust and inspire them.
That's what makes a truly successful team.
And a successful company.
Well, this has been a really fascinating conversation.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
I think our listeners will get a lot out of it.
I hope so.
So to everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
Remember, leadership is a journey.
It is.
So keep learning, keep growing,
Keep getting better.
and keep trying to be the best leader you can be.
I like that.
Until next time, keep diving deep.